We are going behind the headline with parents fighting for the rights of their kids.
They are same-sex couples whose children were born overseas.
According to the Immigration Nationality Act, a law that's been on the book for decades, a child born overseas to an American parent automatically becomes a U.S. citizen.
But that's not the case for these parents. NBC's Molly Hunter sat down with two couples who are actually suing the State Department. They're suing for discrimination. Good to see you, Molly.
Guys, good to see you. That's right. According to these families, the State Department is treating the children of some same-sex parents who are legally married as being born out of wedlock and denying them passports. But the families are fighting back. Take a look.
For Derek and Johnny Mize-Gregg, it was love at first sight.
It was magical. I fell in love with him right away.
They married in New York in 2015, and it wasn't long before they decided to start a family.
There isn't an easy path for us to have kids, but when I saw how good Derek was with children, I was like, this is the right thing to do. We should absolutely have kids.
After dead ends with adoption agencies and traditional surrogacy in the U.S. out of their price range, they remembered a generous offer from a British friend at their wedding.
A few months later, we contacted her. She just said, if you're calling me and you want to ask about having a baby, then the answer is yes, and I would love to do it.
Derek and Johnny each created embryos with an anonymous egg donor, and Johnny's took.
You were in the room in the ultrasound appointment.
We heard the heartbeat for the first time, and Derek just started blubbing
I don't
like a baby.
When Simone was born, their lives would change forever.
I just looked at her and I said, we're going to take care of you for the rest of your life. And so they cut the cord, and they put her on my chest, and it was really special.
So you were the first person.
Oh, yeah,
hold
that was
Simone.
the deal. If it wasn't going to be my genetics, I was going to be the first to hold her.
The birth certificate was issued in a UK court, naming both as Simone's parents. Derek and Johnny are both US citizens, and it was time to take her home.
That's it, touchdown in America.
But that wasn't it. When it came time to apply for Simone's passport, they expected everything to go smoothly. After all, the law was on their side.
It says there, very clearly that if a child is born abroad to two married parents, one of which is an American, then the child is American.
But that's not what they were told.
And she was like, so which one of you is the real father? And I was like, okay, well, we're both the fathers. If you're asking, which one of us had sperm create the embryo, that's Johnny.
Johnny, born to an American mother in the UK, had gone through the same process as a baby to become a citizen with no issue. But this time, the State Department was treating Johnny as the sole father who didn't meet certain residency requirements.
And he basically said, as our policy is, you're not her father for purposes of immigration, and she is a child that we consider to be born out of wedlock, and she is not a citizen of the United States.
The news caught the couple completely off guard.
But you're a lawyer, right? It's not a matter of opinion. Here are the documents that say this.
Right.
It's not, oh, you think that I may be or may not be the real father. Here's the court-issued document that says I am.
Right. But when you're there at that window, it's not a court, and there's no one to look at it fairly.
In Los Angeles, Andrew Dvash-Banks and his husband Elad had experienced similar problems applying for citizenship for their twins, Aiden and Ethan, who were born in Canada.
She literally said, we have a different case here, and I need to know if you can tell me how you created your family.
And she's like, I need to know specifically who was genetically connected to who.
Despite being born just 4 minutes apart, Aiden was granted citizenship while Ethan was not, because he is biologically related to Elad, and Elad is Israeli and holds a green card.
They're brothers. They're twins for anything and everything, but the government steps in the middle of our family and trying to separate us and say, this child is different. Ethan is different because he doesn't have a genetic connection to Andrew.
Andrew and Elad joined forces with the advocacy group Immigration Equality and filed a federal lawsuit against the State Department for discrimination.
Who's your best friend, Aiden?
And in February, they won.
The judge determined that Ethan is and always was, from the moment he was born, a U.S. citizen.
But then the State Department appealed that decision, and today Ethan's citizenship remains in the balance.
Is that Granny's shirt?
In July, the Mize-Greggs also sued the State Department, and Simone remains in the country undocumented.
We can only imagine sitting down with Simone when she's old enough to understand this story and never wanting to tell her that we gave up. And so there is no hill we're not going to climb for her. And this is her citizenship, and we're going to get it for her.
Wow.
Now, both of these families could be in court next year, and there are 2 other cases as well. We reached out to the State Department, and they declined to comment on pending litigation.
But correct me if I'm wrong here, the law itself says nothing about proving genetic relation, right? So how does this matter?
That's what's at the heart of this. It's the law versus State Department policy. So on the website, the State Department website, they're pointing to where they say genetic linkage to the parents is required, but the families and the lawyers are saying that's not the law, and you don't have to have a biological connection to your kids to be a parent. Both of these parents are on the birth certificates for their kids.
And if this was a male and female relationship, this would not be an issue at all.
That's what these families and their lawyers are saying, that if a woman, like an Israeli woman, an American man, went up to the window at the consulate, they would never have been asked, how did you create your family, or where did these kids
But
come
in
from?
that one family's case, what's so stunning is that a court ruled that this child is an American citizen, and the State Department is fighting it.
That's what the families are amazed by. So in February, the Dvash-Banks case, they actually won. They won a passport for little Ethan. The State Department appealed. That's now going to the appellate level.
Wow.
And all these other families were hoping that might actually be the catalyst for change and might actually change the policy, but it hasn't.
Damali,
Yeah.
thank you. It's your first time on the 3rd hour.
Well,
Thank you for bringing
it
such an
is.
important
Thank you,
story.
guys.
And we